Well, good day and welcome back to the Johnson Space Center for today's mission status briefing on Flight Day 4 of Discovery's final flight to the International Space Station. With us today to discuss all of the activities involving the 12 crew members on the shuttle station complex and upcoming activities is the STS-133 ULF-5 International Space Station Orbit 1 Flight Director, David Korth. David?
All right. Good day, everyone. What I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about the current system status for the orbiter and station, and then talk about what we've done today on station, what's coming up this afternoon, and a preview of some things coming up in the next several days. To start with, orbiter systems are performing well. We had a couple of things that we looked at over the last few days, but everything's cleared themselves up. In fact, the debris avoidance team has received all the imagery. And I understand there was a question to Brian Lunny yesterday regarding how many RPM photos did we take, and we took 302 photos, 155 with the 800 millimeter lens, and the balance 147 with the 400 millimeter lens. All of those are being analyzed right now, but the debris avoidance folks have decided they don't need any more information from us to assess the orbiter, so no focused inspection will be required. So with that pre-flight agreement, we're going to take Flight Day 6, replace the focused inspection time with the PMM ingress. So we get to shake hands with Robonaut a little sooner than what was on the original timeline. So we're all excited about that. Let's see, cryo margin-wise, we've got the Spitz up and running. It's doing well. We've got 2 days, 3 hours of margin with Spitz, about 23 hours without. Let's see, we're working through some, we were working through some issues with the humidity separator on the first day or so, had some condensation. We hooked up a day early the condensate to CWC bags, and everything's been working well, so we just got a jump start on condensate collection. So that's really it with the orbiter. I said everything's doing really well with the orbiter crew's doing well. From a station side, all systems are nominal, with the exception of the Vosduke, which we had planned to remove and replace a little bit later in this mission. It was up, it was down, it was up again, it was down again, and right now it's been up again. The Russian crew members have reactivated. It's been running for a little over 3 hours now. So they're trying to get it to basically get along for a couple more days before we replace it with a new model. This Vosduke actually was the original one, so it's been up there for quite some time, and it's done its job well. The crew last night, I know you talked to Brian, and he was previewing what was coming up today and what they were looking forward to last night with the ELC4 installation. The crew elected to stay up about an hour and a half or so late into their workday and finish up the ELC4 install. It's in its permanent location on the S3, starboard 3 lower work site. It's got power, it's in grid shape, but we let the crew sleep in a little bit this morning, about 30 minutes or so, to make up for the time they spent last night getting that accomplished. With respect to what we're doing today on station, it's kind of a myriad of different activities. Primary among those, robotics. We're positioning the, when I left console, we had already handed off the OBSS to the shuttle arm. It had maneuvered to the viewing position for EVA-1 and for anything else that we may need for PMM install viewing. The station arm is in the process of walking off to its position on the MBS to support EVA-1. So, and for the translation again tonight for the MT from worksite 3 to worksite 2. So all is going well on timeline with the robotic ops. The Europeans finally had their chance to get in there and fix their water on-off valve number 8, WOOV 8. And Paulo was knee-deep in WOOV when I left. He's a little bit ahead of the timeline, I would say. What we're doing is we're going to bring this old WOOV home, and we're installing a kind of a bypass manifold to take its place. The shuttle brought up a new WOOV that we're going to use as a spare. There's been some gel-like deposits that we've seen on the valve stems of a number of these different WUVs that is just due to the liquids that are flowing through there and the temperatures around the valves, and it just forms these little gel-like deposits. They've seen it on a number of them. This one seemed to have gotten stuck, and it was time to just clean it up and bypass it. So that's going on schedule. And of course, the other main thing we're doing today is getting ready for EVA number 1 tomorrow. The crew will begin. I'll give you a couple of times here so you can keep up with the timeline. Airlock campout will begin at, and I'll talk GMT. I'm a station guy. I'm a GMT guy, but GMT 59 days, 1 hour, 48 minutes is when we'll begin the airlock campout tonight. And that will be Steve Bowen, Alvin Drew hanging out in the airlock. MET, if you're following MET, 3 days, 3 hours, 55 minutes. Hygiene break begins bright and early tomorrow morning at GMT 12:03, which is a MET of 14 hours, 10 minutes. We're poising for a 6.5-hour EVA. Got a number of different tasks. A lot of them are a compilation of different makeup and get-ahead tasks. We'll go out the door at a GMT of 16:18 or MET 18:35, and we'll come back in around 22:43 or MET 0 hours 50 minutes. Two tasks just to highlight. One of them is the pump module, which we all got to know and love a little bit closer a month or so ago. We'll be moving that out to the ESP2 site where the new pump module came from. And first thing on EVA 2 on flight day 7, we'll be venting it. So we'll put it in a good long-term storage config. Hopefully try to bring that back on a future shuttle flight. The other item of note for the EVA tomorrow, there's an expansion connector we're going to make, J612. We're doing that before we berth the PMM module on flight day 6, just because the connector places on the outside of node 1, the airlock, are hard to get to once you put the PMM in place. So sequentially, it just makes sense to get this task done, and then we'll move on to installing the PMM on flight day 6. And let's see, I think those are the main highlights that I had for the next couple of days. And as I mentioned, because no focused inspection on flight day 6 in the morning, we'll start off with PMM installation, and then the afternoon we'll get into PMM ingress and, like I said, shake hands with Robonaut. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions anybody has.
Okay, we'll take questions here. We also have reporters on the phone bridge, and we'll start over here. Denise?
Hi, Denise Chow, Space.com. I was just wondering if you could go over Tim Coper's involvement in tomorrow's spacewalk, what he's going to be doing here from Mission Control.
Okay. Yeah, we're glad that Tim's up and moving around. In fact, he's in Mission Control right now. What he's going to do, because he trained to be one of the EVA crew members, he's going to be here as one of our ground EVA Capcoms. So he's going to be following along, helping the guys, Steve and them, work through the EVA tasks from a ground standpoint. And I think that's going to be a tremendous asset and help to all of us.
Other question, Robert?
Robert Perlman with CollectSpace.com. Regarding the J612 cable, there's been times in the past on EVAs that astronauts have had trouble hooking up cables. So can you just describe a little bit about what type of connection this is, and also if they can't get it connected for some reason, does that hold up or actually cancel berthing the PMM?
As to the type of connector, I'm going to have to get back to you on that. I don't have that in front of me. As far as what do we do if we can't make the J612 connector, as far as the mission priorities are concerned, berthing the PMM is a top priority. In fact, of the four main mission priorities we have, docking shuttle, getting ELC-4 out on the S3, the next one is PMM berthing, and then undocking the shuttle. And the original plan that we had way back when was didn't include any EVAs at all. So we were just taking the opportunity to get this thing taken care of when we added some EVAs to this mission because it's hard to get to. if for some reason we have issues, I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion, but based on priorities, we'd go ahead and put PMM up there, get it installed on Node 1 Nadir, just because that's one of our top objectives for this mission.
And just a follow-up, is the JAXA's message in the bottle EVA activity still planned for this EVA?
Yeah, it will be, its timeline is the last activity before the crew comes in the airlock.
Over here.
Anna Chicane with Harvard Journalism. Since all the vehicles from the international partners are stint, David, can you give us your idea about what it means for the international cooperation that's going on in this mission?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that everything kind of came together the way that, you know, unfortunately the shuttle flight slipped, but it slipped enough to where we have ATV from the Europeans, we have HTV from the Japanese, of course Progress and Soyuz from the Russian team, and now Shuttle from the U.S. team, and it sort of solidifies the international effort that we've all experienced over the last 10 plus years now on station. So it's kind of exciting to have all these people involved at the same time. It's a lot more work because there's a lot more people involved, but it really highlights the international presence in space, I think.
Okay, with that, we'll take questions from reporters on the phone bridge. I believe Marcia Dunn is up first.
Yes, hi, Marcia Dunn, Associated Press. Will there be any changes to tomorrow's spacewalk as a result of Steve Bowen's late addition to the mission? I'm just wondering if anything's being altered or left off.
No, there are no changes to the timeline for tomorrow.
And two more questions. He's only been able to train for a month. Granted, he's an experienced spacewalker, but I'm just wondering if you anticipate him to be able to carry out everything as well as Tim Cooper might have been able to do if he had been on board.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Steve brings a wealth of EVA experience. He's already had 5 EVAs, very seasoned shuttle astronaut, and he picked right up quickly in the NBL runs, coming up to speed on the tasks that we have. Of course, you know, everybody's unique. Tim's a unique guy, and of course we all miss him on board on the ground. He's part of the EVA team here, still with us on the ground, as I mentioned. And Steve will do just fine, and we have absolutely every confidence that we'll knock off all these tasks. And we have a nice list of get-ahead tasks for EVA 1 as well, and we're fairly confident we'll get through those as well.
Thank you. And my last question, as late as launch day, the Robonaut people have told me that they're not going to be able to unpack Robonaut for at least a couple more months. And you mentioned shaking hands, and I didn't know if there's been a change of plans, or will Robonaut remain boxed up until long after the shuttle leaves?
Yeah, the shaking hands is more of a figurative. As far as getting into Robonaut, yeah, the stage plans, it takes a lot of time. There's a lot of packing with Robonaut. It's got a lot of sensitive equipment on it. So the stage plans don't call for it to be unpacked for a little while. I don't have the exact date, but given the fact that we're going to get into the PMM on flight day 6, we're going to start making headway at unpacking, and you know, we'll see how far we get.
Okay, Mark Carreau's up next.
Yes, Mark Carreau for Aviation Week in Space Technology. And my question is looks ahead to the spacewalk, and I think I just wanted to make sure I knew where ESP2, the final resting place for the pump module, is. Is it on the Quest airlock? And once the module, or once the pump module is on ESP2, as the spacewalk progresses tomorrow, does it need power and cooling and that sort of thing, and will it receive it there?
Yeah, as far as the pump module will go on ESP2, that will be its resting place until we can find a way to bring it home to refurbish it. I'll have to get back to you on all the specifics of what resources it needs on ESP2, and I'll check on the exact location of ESP2 now. I don't have that in front of me.
Okay, I think Irene Klotz is up next.
Thanks very much. I had a couple questions. The first is, do you know when the hardware that Dexter has been, I guess, hanging on to for about three and a half weeks now is going to be moved on to the ELC4.
Yeah, as you know, when the HTV came up, we pulled a couple of items off of there, some spares, a CTC that's got some extra batteries, and a FHRC, and we put them on Dexter. We'll be moving those over to the ELC later. I don't have an exact date for when we're going to put those on there.
Do you know if it's gonna be during Discovery's stay there?
No, not planned at this point.
Hey, thanks. The other question I had is, do you know what's next for Dexter operations?
Did you say what is next for Dexter operations?
Yes.
I know we're going to reposition Dexter for EVA2. Beyond that, it's really there as a holding point, a temporary holding point for the CTC and the FHRC. Beyond that, we don't have any specific plans for Dexter in the near term.
Okay. All right, I believe last up on the phone bridge is Todd Halverson. Todd, are you still there? Okay, I guess not. And ESP2 does reside on the Quest airlock, actually, for Mark, if he's still listening out there. Okay, any questions back here before we close? Don't see any, so we'll close with some programming notes. At 1:43 p.m. Central Time this afternoon, a variety of crew members will be involved in the first of our in-flight media interview opportunities. That will be with the Weather Channel, WBZ Radio in Boston, WSB Television in Atlanta, and WTVT Television in Tampa, Florida. The mission management team briefing this afternoon with Leroy Kane, who's the chair of the MMT and the deputy shuttle program manager, will be broadcast here on NASA Television at 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time today. The crew is scheduled to begin its sleep period at 9:23 p.m. Central Time, right before the first airing of our daily flight day highlights. At 10 p.m. Central Time, those will be replayed every hour on the hour throughout the crew's sleep period. And at 3 a.m. Monday morning, the Orbit 3 ISS Flight Director, Chris Edelin, will be interviewed on console with an update on any replanning efforts and a preview of the spacewalk that's on tap for Monday morning. The crew gets awakened at 5:23 a.m. Central Time Monday morning to complete preparations for that first spacewalk of the mission. You can follow all of the events of Discovery's flight to the International Space Station on our website at www.nasa.gov. So stick around, the MMT briefing at 3 p.m. Central Time this afternoon, spacewalk number 1 on Monday. Until then, we'll go back to mission coverage. Thanks very much.